Chair, your meeting is now live.
Okay, I think we're good to go now, Chair. Thank you.
Right, okay. Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Schools Forum, and welcome to our first ever virtual forum meeting. My name's David Jeets. I'm going to be chairing today's meeting, and there's some stuff I need to just read out to you. So if you just bear with me, we are meeting virtually in response to the limitations placed on governance by the COVID-19 pandemic. Until recently, the law stated that all members had to be present in the room to make formal decisions at meetings. However, the law has been amended in response to the COVID-19 emergencies, and councils are able to hold public meetings virtually. This will be in accordance with the local authorities Coronavirus Flexibility of Local Authority Meeting Regulations 2020, number 392. Members of the public are invited to view this meeting online, and the meeting is recorded. Will be a new experience for many participants, and I would ask that we exercise patience and understanding as we familiarise ourselves with the new arrangements, and in particular with your chair. Forum members are requested to keep their microphones on mute and only turn these on when you're called to speak. If you have any questions or comments to make on the reports, please use the chat function. Now, for those of you not familiar with that, if you touch your screen, 3 dots will appear, and you can oh no, sorry, that's for blurring. But if you touch your screen and go to the top on the right, certainly on my one, there's the ability to turn on a chat function, and you'll be able to type in RTS, request to speak, with your name, just your first name, and then if you please access the chat function and let us know that you would like to speak, that would be great. Okay. Right, so let's try and make a start. First of all, we have to do I have to ask for attendance. So I'm going to run through in true head teacher fashion the list of attendees, and if you could let me know if you are present. So Ian Hunkin, Jackie Collins.
Yes, here.
Thank you. David Jeeps is present. Cher Dool.
Yes, I'm here.
Alison Bean.
Yes, here.
Joe Cooper. Kate Keller. Sonia Nickerson. Nathan Waits.
Did you get that? Sorry, I'm here.
Yeah, Nathan is here. Natalie Shepherd.
Yes, I'm here.
Hi, Natalie. Niz Hardingham. Steve Lebetz.
Here, sir.
Councillor Claire Udy.
Hello. Hi.
Councillor Judith Smythe. Councillor Lynn Stagg.
Here.
Thank you. Councillor Terry Lawson.
Yes, present, Chair.
Thank you. Mike Gaston.
Yes, here.
And Cara Jewell.
Yeah, I'm here.
I also believe we may have some local authority officers. So is Mike here, Mike Stoneman?
Yeah, I'm here. Hello.
Hi, Mike. And also, I think we may have some observers. I think, do we have Councillor Susie Horton observing?
I am here observing.
Hello, hello, hello. Right, well, if I've missed anyone out, shout, or RTS on the chat function.
David, if you didn't realise, you're sideways at the moment. Don't know quite what happened to your camera, but just thought I'd tell you.
Right, is that a problem? Do you want me to try and do that?
That's better, yeah.
Is that better?
Much better, thank you.
I was in Australia briefly. Right, I'm back. Okay, right. Okay, we're going to kick off with the agenda now. So the first item we're going to do is apologies. So I understand we have some apologies. We've received apologies from Dave Jones, Sean Preston, Jason Crouch, and Simon Barrable, although Mike Gaston is representing. Do we have any more apologies?
No, Chair, we haven't.
Okay, super. And declarations of pecuniary interests. Any declarations?
I can't guarantee this for definite because I have been trying to contact the office to see if someone can check the files. I believe I'm still outstanding Councillor Udi and Cara Jewell. I will confirm that with both members of the forum over the course of the next week when we can get somebody into the office to check the files.
Super, thank you.
And it's the usual declarations from me, Chair. They're on record that I work, obviously, at Mayfield for a company.
That's Councillor Terry Norton,
Yep.
Employed as a supply teacher at Mayfield School. Lovely. Any other interests? Okay, Alison, I think you're going to update us on membership changes.
Yes, I am. Okay, so since the last meeting, the following changes have happened. The Special School Academy representative, Alison Bean's tenure expired on the 28th of February. As the only Special School Academy Trust in the city, Alison has agreed to continue to stand as a representative. So thank you, Alison.
Thank you.
Maintained School Secondary Head Representative, David Jeeps, tenure came to an end at the end of, 20th of June 2020. Following conversation with the head teacher of St Edmunds, he has agreed to stand again. So thank you, David. Natalie Shepherd has resigned from Schools Forum, and this is her last meeting. Can I take this opportunity to thank her for her input into the forum during her tenure? It's greatly appreciated. This means there are now 2 vacancies for secondary academy representatives. All secondary academy head teachers were contacted last week asking for a volunteer by the 10th of July. I haven't received any response at all to date. And can I just ask academy reps of the forum if they can talk to their colleagues and encourage volunteers, because come September we will be 2 down from academy representatives. The volunteers do not need to be teachers as long as they're at the Academy Trust. Following the cessation of David Jeep's tenure, the role of chair to the forum also ceases, and we need to elect a new chair. I did send a note round yesterday to members asking if anybody else was interested in becoming chair. Today, I have received response. I don't know whether there is a meeting, so if anybody at the meeting would like to express an interest of becoming chair of the forum, if so, can they please put a note on the speech on the chat line.
And I'm very happy to continue, but equally, if others are interested, then speak now.
I take it as silence. Means that nobody is interested, and there's been nothing come through on the chat. We now need to actually take a vote to elect, to go through an election process for David. David, can I ask you to put yourself on hold?
Yes.
And I will send a chat to you once we've been through the vote.
Okay, well, vote wisely, people.
Okay, similar to the roll call, I'm going to go through the list of Schools Forum members that are here and ask if they can vote yes or no. Switch on the microphone to vote yes or no with regards to Dave's becoming the chair of Schools Forum. Can I start with Jackie Collins, please?
Yes, please.
Okay. Ian's not here. Cher Dall, please.
Yes, of course.
Thank you. Steve Lebet, please.
Yes, definitely.
Thank you. Natalie Shepherd, please.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Nathan Waits, please.
Yes, I agree.
Thank you. Alison Bean, please.
Yes, fine.
Thank you. Councillor Lynn Stagg.
Yes, indeed.
Thank you. Councillor Terry Norton. Councillor Norton.
Alison, it looks like he may have dropped out. Sorry.
Okay. Are you going to try and recover him?
Yeah, I will do.
I'll just pause while we try to. No, they've got no response from him at the moment. Okay, I'm going to propose that we carry on with the plan. If Councillor Norton is back shortly, we can then come to him at the end. Okay, Councillor Claire Rudy.
Yeah, that's fine.
Thank you. Mike Gaston.
Yes, and thanks.
Thank you. And Cara Jewell.
Yes, that's fine with me.
Thank you. Have we got Councillor Norton back with us yet?
No, unfortunately not. I'll keep trying. Just a second.
As the majority of the meeting have actually approved David to be the chair, are we happy to proceed and pull David back into the meeting?
Yes.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hello, David. Thank you for coming back in. Just to confirm that the people that voted were unanimous for you to be the chair. We lost Councillor Terry Norton through that process, and we've not been able to get him back into the meeting, I'm afraid.
I won't take that as a slight, Councillor Norton. Don't worry.
Absolutely not. I'm back now, but it's all done and dusted.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you all very much for your vote of confidence. It's much appreciated, and we press on with our agenda. Right. So the next item is the minutes from the previous meeting. Once again, apologies for missing both that meeting and the one before. It was force majeure, but hopefully I won't miss any more. Can I just check that? So what we're going to do is we need to ensure this is a correct record of the meeting held on the 12th of February. Are there any comments? So if there are, RTS in chat. Okay, do I have a proposer for the approval of the minutes? someone who was there, if you could just propose. Can someone propose? Yeah, Nathan, thank you. And can someone second? And that's Cher seconding. Thank you very much. So the recommendation has been proposed and seconded. I will now take the vote by affirmation of the members as permitted within the regulations. If there is no dissent, the proposal is passed. Are there any objectors to this recommendation? So if you don't agree with the minutes, you need to now RTS. Okay, so given there are no objections, the minutes of the previous meeting have therefore been approved and amended. I don't believe there are any matters arising from the previous minutes. That's correct, is it not, Alison?
Yes, there's no matters arising on the minutes.
Super. Okay, so that's that item. We now move on to item 5, which is the dedicated schools grant outturn. Before we do, I know a number of you later on in the meeting may have questions reference to the government's the £1 billion of funding that the government have recently announced to support schools, colleges and academies. We've no reason to believe that money isn't coming, but at this stage, we don't have the detail. The detail of that, once it comes into the local authority, we will, of course, share through the usual head teacher briefings and meetings. And obviously, at the right time, that will come to forum's attention as well. Alison, are you going to take us through item 5, please?
David, it's me, Angela.
Oh, sorry, Angela.
It's okay.
Sorry, my mistake.
No worries. The report sets out the dedicated schools grant year-end position for the financial year 2019-20 as at the 31st of March 2020, and it's for noting. The lockdown for the coronavirus had an impact on our financial year-end processes, and whilst we had our deadlines extended, we started to make some assumptions because we weren't able to be in touch with everybody at that time. Please note that table 1 that was initially sent out had an error in it, and hopefully you'll all have received a copy of the revised table 1, which corrects the error to the 2018-19 carry forward. At the end of the financial year, the DSG carry forward was decreased by a net of 165,000, leaving a carry forward balance of 3.1 million into the financial year 2021, which is 4.2% of the total funding. The report sets out the details behind the final balance with explanations regarding any overs and underspends on each of the blocks, and I would like to draw your attention to 2 of the areas. There's an underspend in the year's budget due to a reduction in the number of pupils over the course of the year. This has been reflected in the January 2020 census, and it's expected to lead to a reduction in the year's block funding in July because there's a lag of approximately £1.5 million, of which 550,000 relates to 7/12 of 2019-20 and 959,000 relates to the financial year 2021. The other area is the high needs block overspend by just under £700,000. The overspend was mainly related to mainstream education, health and care plans, outer city provision and post-16 pupils with education, health and care plans. The overspend was covered by underspends on the schools block and the early years block, requiring the remaining amount to come from the 18-19 balance. Finally, the report seeks to ask Schools Forum to note the year-end outturn position for the Dedicated Schools Grant as at the end of March 2020 and the various explanations contained within this report. I'm happy to take any questions anybody might have.
If I can just kick off with the early years underspends, that's £380,000. So that relates to fewer children in the system, I guess. That will manifest itself later on with fewer numbers going into our infant schools. So a couple of questions really. I mean, first of all, I think we need to, an update from the early years team about are they confident that there's going to be sufficient high quality settings available across the city in light of what looks like a drop in the pupil numbers? And secondly, in terms of pupil place planning, just is it worth highlighting to our infants and primary schools that there is a fall in the number of children coming, and therefore financially this could cause them some issues?
Can I come in there, Dave? David,
yes.
just on those 2 points. So early years settings, I did have a conversation actually with the early years team yesterday, and Mindy Butler, who's the officer responsible for sufficiency, and asked the very same question actually, and she was confident that actually yes, we would be in a good position. There are a number of providers that are struggling, and there are a number that we think will fall by the wayside. Having said that, we've got a number of strong providers who will probably fill those gaps if necessary. So right. She was fairly optimistic about the current state of it's still a challenge, but she was confident. On the pupil place planning side of things, we obviously update our forecasts every year. And yes, that's a fair point actually in terms of the numbers that are coming through into year reception and beyond. I will take that away, David. I think it is probably a good thing to do to give heads an update on pupil forecasts and what that could mean for their future budget. So I'll take that away as an action.
Okay, that's great. Thank you, Mike. And then the only other point for me would be around obviously the high needs overspend. We know there's been pressure for many years on the high needs. £700,000 though is a big amount of money. It's a big overspend. I suppose really is this something that we're going to how are we going to control this? How are we going to ensure going forward that budget comes back online?
David, just to say, I think we're still looking for activity information for this year, but when we did look at the 2021 funding, we got over £2 million of additional funding for high needs. So when we looked at the budgets, it was sufficient for the pressures that Schools Forum had previously agreed. Obviously, we need to look at the revised activity information that we've got.
Okay, so we think it's a manageable budget going forward.
Can I just say something on that? I mean, yes, I think it is in the sort of short to medium term, but unless we get additional funding beyond the additional allocation we've had, then there will be future pressures. There's no getting around that. I just think I need to manage expectations here.
Okay. Is there anything we should be doing to support the team around high needs? Is there any action that Forum needs to be taken?
I mean, there are some actions which are taken already, which was agreed at this Schools Forum in terms of we're increasing the capacity of the SEN team to support annual reviews for EHCPs in our mainstream schools. That will bring a certain amount of rigour. So there's that in the system that we're putting in place. So yes, so there is some work being done around that. But at the moment, the big issue is around the increasing complexity of SEND, and that's the pressure. And then the increasing numbers, particularly in terms of post-16 as well. So,
one to watch.
One to watch, yeah.
Okay. On the chat function, I think Cher, you've got a question around paragraph 4.2b. Do you want to ask your question?
Yes, if I can, but just to comment on what you were just talking about, if I may.
Yes, please.
I think the thing we need to be aware of course, is that we know a lot of things are changing due to the COVID crisis, which might mean an increase also in the amount of demand, mightn't it? So we've got of children with special needs, especially mental health needs, possibly. So it is something we need to keep a watching eye on, isn't it? And keep
Absolutely.
talking about. So 4.2 was just a small question for clarification, really. I presume the funding wasn't deceased but decreased. It says it was deceased funding following a recruitment of high needs. But joking aside, does that mean, I didn't really understand what it was saying, does it mean we didn't any longer need that 52k because something changed, in which case in reality the reduced income wasn't a problem?
I'll answer that. Right, with it, sorry, it should be decreased. My apologies. Spell check proofreading didn't work as well as I'd hoped. It is, yeah.
Definitely a decrease. We'll go with decrease.
It's a definite decrease. What happens is that we had an independent provider within the city that we were expecting to have a number of places taken from our high needs block, and it then gets paid to the independent provider. It's a company that we have been challenging the DFE on because we don't believe it should actually be sat within our city. They have now agreed that it shouldn't be sat within our city, and this will be corrected for the 2021 financial year. But in relation to the 1920 financial year, we had to make a payment for those additional places. But our high needs funding did have those pupils within the funding, so it's not it kind of balances itself out.
Took nearly 2 years of negotiation, didn't it, Alison? But we got there in the end.
It did, yeah.
Well done, Alison.
Well done, yes.
Okay, right. Just looking back, Nathan.
Just a quick question in relation to pupil numbers. So in early years, and I think coming into reception as well. And I've heard sort of anecdotal feedback that some reception lowers across the city are perhaps lower than previous years. So given the fact that there's place planning takes place each year, was this expected, or is it perhaps as a result of other factors? So is it birth rate related, or is it perhaps families moving out of the city and potentially a sort of Brexit factor and families returning to Europe? I'm just curious, really, if anyone has any insight.
There's always a number of factors, but the overriding factor is birth rate. That is the main reason for the reason the numbers are going down. There are other factors, but that is the overriding reason. Yeah, and we have regularly updated heads on forecasts, and I hope most heads are aware of the issue around birth rates. But David's question was a timely reminder to perhaps do another update for heads, so we will do that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Right.
Of course, that might have all changed after COVID-19. We might see a blip. You never know.
Well, that's what they're saying, isn't it? It's potentially a COVID boom. We will see. We will see. Right. Any more questions? I'll just give people sort of 10 seconds to use the chat function. Okay, right. So on this particular one, let me just go back to my script. Where are we? So, I need so if we go back to the start of this one, we need to, this is a note. So I need a proposer for the approval of the recommendation in paragraph 2.1 of the report. So would anyone propose? And I will also need a seconder. So a proposer and a seconder, please. Don't be shy. Please don't be shy. So Cher, thank you, is proposing. And anyone to second? Nathan, thank you to second. And therefore, we'll now take a vote by affirmation of the meeting as permitted within the regulations. If there is no dissent, the proposal is passed. Are there any objectors to this recommendation? If you wish to object, if you could just put RTS into the chat function, please. I'll pause. Okay, thank you. So that's carried. We move on now to item 6, which is the maintained school balances. I will just highlight the fact that Mayfield School, which I'm head teacher of, and also chair of Schools Forum, we do have a deficit. I'm very conscious of that. Governors are working hard with us to make sure we turn that round in a very timely fashion. And all the proper usual scrutiny that you would expect is being applied here. That said, I'll hand over to, I think it's Alison.
Yes, it's Alison. Okay, so this is the annual report that provides an update on the position of the maintained school balances as at the end of March 2020. Section 4 sets out the revenue balances. In particular, the second table shows the balances between 18-19 and 19-20 financial years, adjusted for any academy conversions. This shows an overall drop in balances of £305,000. Of the 4.1 million of balances in total across all the maintained schools, 3.5 million relate to uncommitted balances. So this is funding that schools haven't actually got a commitment for. As the report sets out, there are 2 schools that have a deficit balance at the end of the financial year, one of which has submitted a deficit recovery plan, and that is currently being reviewed. The other school, due to sickness at the time of the year end, were unable to provide the information to ensure that their accounts had the appropriate funding in them. We made some adjustments based on the information we had at the time. If we'd received it in time, we would have, the school would have been in a surplus position. The authority has carried out a review of those uncommitted balances that are either considered to be excessive, which means they're in excess of 20%, or are causing concern, which are schools that we've seen a reduction of 25% or more between the 18-19 and 19-20 financial years. And the report the report details the outcomes of these reviews, including the progress made by schools that were picked up at the end of 18-19. At the end of the year, there was a notable drop in revenue balances compared to 18-19, and the level of balances across the maintained school ranges from deficits to balances in excess of 20%. We are currently working with schools and will continue to support them in managing their long-term financial position, and we are flexing that support according to the individual circumstances of the schools. Section 6 sets out the capital balance, which shows an academy adjusted reduction of from 2.2 million to 1.3 million. And the majority of this movement is due to a large building project which has been undertaken by one of the secondary schools in the city, and their use of their capital balances towards that. Finally, the report asks Schools Forum to note the level of maintained schools balances and the actions, sorry, I'll put my teeth back in, notes the level of maintained school revenue balances and capital balances as at the 31st of March, as shown in the appendices 2 and 3, and the monitoring action that has been taken by the council. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. Quick one, well, not really a question, but just really a thanks to Alison and your team for having these conversations with schools with excess balances or reducing and low balances. It's something we asked you to do a few years ago, and it's really good to see that you guys have just kind of got on and done it, and that's really reassuring. Can I just ask a question though? Without naming a school, are you confident that there is no school heading in towards academisation and leaving a big balance to be picked up.
We are, I would say, fairly confident. We have one school that is heading towards academisation. There is a possibility of a deficit, but there's no guarantee that that will happen. And if there is, it is talking about tens of thousands rather than hundreds of thousands. But we are working with that school and the Academy Trust.
Yeah, and I should add to that, David, I mean, I'm involved in that as well. That's a monthly monitoring we do on that. We're very close to it, and thanks to Alison and the colleagues for their support on that.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. And that's very reassuring to hear that you guys are keeping very close tabs on that one. That's great. Right, going back to the chat function, share.
Okay, yes, I just wanted to start as the chair of Bramble Infant School and Nursery to say thank you to the Portsmouth City Council for all the support you've given us around trying to make our financial position more sustainable. I just wanted to pick up in paragraph 5.9. It talks about the school's resource management advisor, and we're one of the schools that had them to come in December. It mentions that you've at the authority have received a draft report. I wondered if there was any timescale by which the school will be able to see a copy of that.
We have received the report. I'm yet to meet with Mike to go through the comments in the report. I'm hoping to get to the school before the end of term.
Oh, excellent. Thank you.
Okay. Any more questions? I'll just pause for a few seconds. Okay, right. Oh, hang on, sorry, Nathan.
Sorry, just a quick question. Obviously, highlighted those schools which have a balance in excess of 20% of income. I can see that there is one school with a significant balance, but under that 20% threshold. But is there a purpose and a reason, rationale as to why they're perhaps increasing that year-on-year balance when it's already significant in value?
Sorry, Nathan, can I just check which paragraph you're referring to? Because there's a number of schools mentioned.
Appendix 2, just in relation to the actual balances, and then just where, sorry, the section 5.10 onwards in terms of the excessive balances, just as one particular larger school with a significant balance, but then the uncommitted versus the committed. So I just wanted to clarify that have the reasons for having such a significant value of balance been explored, even if percentage-wise it's not necessarily a significant factor?
Right. There's two schools that we're in close conversation with at the moment. One is about to amalgamate, which is why they've got high balances, and they're keeping those balances to help soften and ease the amalgamation process through. The other one that has a high balance, we are talking to because we have concerns about their budget this financial year, 2021 financial year, their in-year budget, and we're in discussions with those. I'm not too sure. The other one I've actually clearly mentioned and followed through on.
Sorry, so you went a bit crackly then. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Okay, so the other I've mentioned about the one that's going into amalgamation and therefore is keeping a high balance to smooth that process.
Yeah.
There's another one that has a high balance but has set an in-year deficit, and we are talking to that school. My school's finance officer has already had a meeting with their finance staff, and we're planning a meeting with the head teacher towards the beginning of next term. So we're in conversation with them. And the other one, as I say, the other one I've actually mentioned in the report, so I'm not too sure if that answers your question or whether there's something specific you want to.
No, I think so. That's fine.
Yeah, are you sure?
Yeah. I mean, can I focus on a particular school, or is it appropriate to do so or not?
I think if you, in the chat function, I think you can, that the chat function isn't shared widely. So you can certainly use the chat function to point Alice in the right direction. Is that okay, Alison?
Sorry, Chair. Just to say, the everything that's in the chat function is FOIable. So.
Oh, okay.
Mindful of that. Sorry.
Alison, I think the explanation that you've given, you know, answers the question. I think I was looking at the school particularly with the highest balance.
Yeah.
And just the fact that it is increasing annually, or has increased from one year to the next.
Yeah.
Right. That school actually has a large capital program going on at the moment, and they're using some of their balances towards that large capital program.
Okay.
So they're actually committed balances.
They're marked as uncommitted, but they're in relation to the build up of that capital program.
Okay.
Right. Okay. For the purposes of clarity, it might be better if we're aware that a school is undergoing some sort of capital development, that we make sure that appears correctly as a committed rather than uncommitted, because Nathan's quite right. As the numbers sit here, it does look odd.
Yeah, no, I can understand where you're coming from. I would say that a lot of the information about uncommitted and committed comes from the schools themselves, and we were missing a number of those statements at year end due to the COVID situation.
Well, okay, yeah, no, that's fair enough. Okay, right, but it's a good bit of sleuth work, so thank you, Nathan, for pursuing that one. Okay, I'm going back to the chat function now. So Claire Udi says farewell. So we're still quorum, however, I think.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, right. I'll just pause for 10 seconds. If anyone wants to make a question or comment on the maintained school balances, now's your time. Okay, right. So we need to have a proposer for the approval of the recommendation in paragraph 2.1 of the report, and also a seconder. So through the chat function, could someone propose and second, please? Share and, oh, I don't know who this is. Engagement officer at pdf.org. Cara. So we've got Share and Cara Jewel, thank you, to propose and second. The recommendation has been proposed and seconded. I'll now take the vote by affirmation of the meeting as permitted within the regulations. If there is no dissent, the proposal is passed. Are there any objectors to this recommendation? If you do wish to object, if you could now say so via the chat function. Okay, so no one has objected, so that one is carried as well. Okay, so agenda item number 7 is the Schools Forum Constitution, and I think, Angela, you're going to talk us through this one?
I am, thank you. This is an annual report which reviews the current composition of Schools Forum to ensure it continues to provide appropriate representation between maintained schools and academies. Schools Forum approved the current constitution in May 2018, and since then only a few schools have converted to academy status. The tables set out in section 4.5 and 4.6 identify the proportion of pupils attending maintained and academy schools by sector. These proportions have not changed significantly by sector since last year. Therefore, it's proposed to maintain the structure of Schools Forum membership in respect to school maintained members and academy members as set out in section 4.7 of the report. The government updated the Schools Forum regulations, which is Schools Forum England Coronavirus Amendment Regulations 2020, in light of the pandemic. These came into effect from the 18th of June until the 31st of March 2021. The change enables Schools Forum to meet remotely rather than in person. We considered whether to update our current constitution in light of these changes, but our constitution did not specifically state that our meeting should be in person, so it's not proposed to change our wording. Therefore, it is recommended that Schools Forum retains the current constitution attached at Appendix A, which took effect from the 24th of May 2018. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, so if you have a question, if you could RTS on the chat function, please. Okay, looks like there's no questions. I don't have any questions, so I propose that we go straight to a vote. Now, this one's a little bit laborious, I'm afraid, so please bear with me. I need to read through the list of members and ask them to vote, and you're voting whether you're in favour of the recommendation or not, and the recommendation is set out in 2.1. The recommendation reads, it is recommended that Schools Forum retains the current constitution attached to Appendix A, which took effect from the 24th of May 2018. So I'm going to read out each person's name as I think you are here, and then if you recommend, then if you could just say recommend. If you don't wish to recommend, say not recommend. So we'll kick off with Jackie Collins.
Recommend.
Cher Dool.
Recommend.
Alison Bean.
Recommend.
Nathan Waits.
Recommend.
Natalie Shepherd.
Yes, I recommend.
Thank you. Steve Labatz.
Recommend.
I know Councillor Udi's left us. Councillor Lynn Stagg.
Recommend.
I think that was a recommend. Councillor Terry Norton.
Just recommend.
Mike Gaston.
Recommend.
And Cara Jewell.
Recommend.
Okay, so that is unanimous and carried. Right, we move on to item 8, which is the scheme for financing schools. And I think, Alison, you're going to lead us through this one.
Yes, I'm going to lead you through this one. So this is the annual review of the authority's scheme for financing schools to ensure that it reflects the recent changes in legislation as set out in the Schools and Early Years Finance England Regulations 2020. The scheme relates to maintained schools only, and the authority is required to consult with all maintained schools before the scheme is brought to Schools Forum for approval. We consulted with maintained schools during the period of the 9th to the 19th of June 2020 on the proposed revisions as set out in section 4. The consultation included a copy of the scheme with a list of the changes in addition to the changes highlighted to make it easy for consultees to identify them. No responses were received to the consultation, and therefore it is recommended that Schools Forum members representing maintained schools approve the revised scheme for financing schools as attached at Appendix 1 to come into force from the 1st of August 2020. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, so whilst this is just for maintained schools, I think questions can come from anyone. So I'm just quickly looking at the chat function. If anyone wishes to question, now's the time. RTS. Okay, right, no questions, so we'll go straight to the vote, and the vote is just for maintain that the diminishing club of maintained schools. That's Jackie Collins, Ian Hunking, Cher, and myself, actually. So I'll call on Jackie Collins. Are you in favour of the recommendation? The recommendation being that the Schools Forum members representing maintained schools approve the revised scheme for financing schools as attached at Appendix 1 and comes into force on the 1st of August of this year.
Yes, in favour.
Excellent. Share.
Yes, I'm in favour.
And that's 3 yeses from me. So you're through to, no, sorry, wrong show. So, all in favour. Very good. Very, very good. Okay, thank you. Right then, we are, oh gosh, we're into AOB. So, well, just to add my thanks to Niz. Over the last few years, it's been absolutely brilliant having you on Schools Forum. You've asked some great questions, particularly around SEN, and have certainly moved us forward. So thank you very much for all you've done there.
Sorry, Chair, I think you mean Natalie.
Sorry, is it Natalie leaving us?
It is. Yes, it is.
I'll take all that back. I'm joking.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. It's great that Niz is staying on. Yeah.
No. Sorry, I misread my script. Natalie, thank you for all you've done, and it's been great having you on board. Please do encourage your colleagues to get a representative elected. Forum only works if we've got people who are really engaged with Forum. So I'd be really appreciate if you could get the word out. But thank you for all you've done, Natalie. Just going round via the chat function, does anyone have any other business? Oh, there's a dot. Nathan. Nathan is fine.
Sorry.
That's fine, Nathan. Any other business from anyone? Okay, well, can I just thank all of the officers who not only have made today's meeting possible and doable, but for all your hard work during the COVID-19 crisis. It's never easy getting information out of schools on finance, and let alone when everyone is so preoccupied. So please accept my sincere thanks for all the hard work you've done. Our next meeting is on the 16th of September 2020. We are expecting this to be a virtual meeting. If that does change, then we will let you know. And can I just wish you all a very pleasant summer break, whatever you're doing. Stay safe, obviously, and I look forward to working with most of you next year in Forum. So thank you all, and goodbye.
Thanks,
David.
Thank you all.
Thanks, David.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Peter. If you're there, if you could end the live stream. Yes, it is. Yeah, thank you.